Welcome back to Torah in 10, Parshat Shimini. I'm Jody Burkell, and I'm so excited to be here with you again. The class is a little longer than usual, still under 10 minutes, of course, but trust me, hang in there until the end. Rabbi Sacks of blessed memory has a powerful, life-changing message for us this week. He says, what you think of as your greatest weakness can become, if you wrestle with it, your greatest strength. Have you ever felt that something from your past was holding you back? Or felt inadequate to a task you have been assigned or to a job you've been given? I think there are times when we all feel this way. According to Rashi, one of our great Torah commentators on this parsha, we're in good company. This is where we're at. The Jewish people have completed the Mishkan, the sanctuary, and Moses has dedicated Aaron and his sons for their service as the priests of the nation. They are now ready to begin their service. Moses speaks to Aaron and he says, "Come near to the altar and offer your sin offering and your burnt offering and make atonement for yourself and for the people." Our sages were confused as to why Moses needed to say, "Come near." Did Aaron keep a distance from the altar? And if so, why? Rashi gives us the following explanation. He says that Aaron felt ashamed and fearful of approaching the altar. Moses says to him, "Why are you ashamed? It was for this that you were chosen." There's a name for this type of feeling. It's called the imposter syndrome, coined in 1978, and it refers to people who suffer from feeling that they don't deserve the success they've achieved. They attribute it not to their effort and ability, but rather to luck or good timing, or to the fact that they have deceived others into believing that they are better than they actually are. Can it be that Aaron, one of the leaders of the Jewish people, was suffering from the imposter syndrome? Or is something deeper going on? Rashi tells us that Aaron was not just someone who lacked self-confidence. There was something specific that he had in mind on that day, that he was to become the high priest for the Jewish people. If we think about it, we know one of the greatest mistakes of the Jewish people was the episode of the golden calf, which Aaron played a role. This was a man who, rightly so, was uncomfortable with his role in this failure of the Jewish people, and now was being asked to atone, not just for himself, but for all the people. Isn't this hypocritical? Wasn't he himself part of the sin? How can he now stand before God and the people and assume the role of the holiest men? No wonder he felt like an imposter and ashamed and fearful of approaching the altar. But what does Moses say in response to Aaron's hesitation? He tells his brother, "It was for this that you were chosen." The job of the high priest is to atone for the sins of the people, and his responsibility to plead for forgiveness on Yom Kippur. That implies, Moses, is why you were chosen, because you know what it feels like to sin. You know what guilt feels like. You, more than anyone else, understand the need for atonement and forgiveness. In other words, says Rabbi Sacks, your greatest mistake, what you think of as your greatest weakness, will become, in this role that you're about to assume, your greatest strength. What an idea for us. We have another example in our Torah with which to connect this idea to. When God first calls upon Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, what does he say? He repeatedly tells God, "I can't do it." He says, "I'm not a man of words. I can't speak." This coming from Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest leader of the Jewish people. And yet, this is what we find. Even Moses felt he was inadequate for the task that God sent him. Have you ever felt like this? I sure have. I remember years ago when I was going to teach my first Torah class, someone said to me, "But you don't know that much." I responded, "I learned from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he said, if you know Aleph, teach Aleph. You don't have to know Aleph through Taf in order to teach. Teach what you know. And so I did, even though I felt like, who am I to be teaching Torah? I didn't grow up with this knowledge. I didn't go to Jewish day school, and I certainly didn't grow up keeping all the mitzvot. Who am I to be teaching these ideas? But Rabbi Sacks says, God chooses people who are fully aware of their inadequacies, who don't speak perfectly in the case of Moses, who speak not because they want to, but because they have to. I often feel this way. I have shared with many of you that this doesn't come so easy to me. I often feel that there are others who are better qualified because of their background to share Torah. Now, I don't suffer from the imposter syndrome. I believe that God believes in me. And it's not in spite of my background that I'm able to share the power of these ideas. It's exactly because of my background that perhaps I have an ability to relate to these ideas in a unique way. And so I push myself to overcome my feelings. I learn as much as I possibly can and do what needs to be done. Rabbi Sacks teaches us feelings of inadequacy can either pull us down or launch us forward. Do our feelings lead us to depression and despair, or do they lead us to work on our weakness and turn them into strengths? I saw a quote of a picture of Dumbo the elephant on it. Remember the movie? And the caption reads, "The very things that hold you down are going to lift you up." This was said by Dumbo's biggest fan, Timothy Mouse, and I just love it. The key, according to Rashi in this parsha, is the role Moses played in this critical moment in Aaron's life. He had faith in Aaron, even when Aaron didn't have faith in himself, because we all need cheerleaders. That is the role that God played in Moses's life more than once. And that's the role that God plays in our life too, if we let him. More than we have faith in God, God has faith in us. Better to know that we are imperfect than to think we've got it all together. God loves us and believes in us despite and sometimes because of our imperfections. Our weaknesses is what make us human. Wrestling with them makes us strong. This, says Rabbi Sacks, is a life-changing idea. What we think of as a weakness can become, if we work on ourselves, our greatest strength. Here's to being perfectly imperfect. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.